We are cracking open a highly complex, really specific theory about the layout of the Capitol.
Today's deep dive is all about Luis B. Vega's article. It's called The Luciferian Blueprint of the District of Columbia. We are talking Masonic history, esoteric geometry, ancient pagan deities, and even biblical end times prophecies. The foundational argument here is that the early planners of the U.S. were co-opted by Masonic and Luciferian factions.
And that they left their signature baked right into the earth itself. The theory really points to the National Mall for this.
That long stretch from Capitol Hill down to the Lincoln Memorial. So what are we actually supposed to be seeing when we look down at that space?
You are supposed to be seeing an anthropomorphic shape, like a giant, mathematically precise human body. The premise refers to this layout as the Masonic Man. The concept is that the city was designed using this ancient template known as the Temple of Man.
I know that idea predates the United States by thousands of years. We see this in ancient Egypt, don't we?
If you go to Luxor, Egypt, the ancient temple complex there is famously laid out to mirror the proportions of the human skeletal system. It's a profound architectural motif where the physical structure represents a divine human form. And the argument is that DC utilizes this exact same ancient template.
Okay, so it's a direct copy of that Egyptian concept.
Yes, and furthermore, it allegedly mirrors the legendary dimensions of King Solomon's temple. Esoteric traditions claim that was also built using this human-shaped sacred geometry.
Okay, well, let's actually physically map this body onto the streets of DC so everyone listening can picture it. How do the buildings act as anatomy?
Well, Capitol Hill sits at the very top, so it acts as the head. And this isn't just geographical, it's highly functional. In the layout of Solomon's temple, the head corresponds to the Holy of Holies. It's the brain, the center of supreme thought. And for the U.S., it's the absolute center of lawmaking.
That makes total sense. It's the brain of the country.
Then, if you draw a line straight down the center of the mall to form the spine, you have the arm stretching out laterally.
Okay, I'm picturing it. Where do the arms go?
The right hand extends perfectly to the White House, and the left hand reaches straight out to the Jefferson Memorial.
I can actually visualize that perfectly. It's almost like a mapped Vitruvian man. But a temple of man just sounds like, I don't know, an homage to divine creation or humanism. Where is the dark occult element?
Well, that is the pivotal twist in this layout. When you look much closer at the head, the Capitol building itself, the surrounding streets disrupt that whole innocent human form idea.
How so?
If you trace the pathways of the streets that immediately wrap around the Capitol grounds, the lines form the unmistakable silhouette of a massive owl. The curved avenues form these giant wings wrapping around the central building, and then the intersecting streets right at the top create these distinct pointed tufts, like the ears of an owl.
In occult symbolism, the owl is deeply associated with Molech, the one historically tied to child sacrifice and some really dark rituals.
So by superimposing this owl directly over the Capitol building, the architecture pulls off this really dark visual trick. The ears of the owl effectively give the head of our Masonic man horns. It transforms it from a divine human into this horned Lord of Darkness figure overlooking the body.
So the silhouette literally shifts from human to demonic depending on which street lines you trace. That is incredibly unsettling.
It really changes the entire tone of the map, doesn't it?
It really does. Are there other markers on this body that point to that darker narrative?
Oh, absolutely. Let's move down the spine of the body to the World War II memorial. When viewed from above, the theory argues it forms a distinct skull and bones motif.
A skull and bones right on the mall.
Yeah, but it's actually the mathematics of its placement that makes this a crucial part of the blueprint.
The math. What do you mean?
The placement isn't arbitrary at all, and compare it to the rest of the body, it hits the exact phi ratio.
Oh, right.
It's the ultimate mathematical signature of sacred geometry. But placing a symbol of death right at the phi ratio center is interpreted here as a deliberate, mocking inversion.
Like twisting the sacred geometry into something dark.
Right. It's seen as a mockery of Calvary, the place of the skull where Jesus was crucified. It embeds this narrative of death right into the heart of the geometry.
This is wild. So we aren't just looking at a static picture. The streets are spelling out this heavily encrypted narrative of ancient deities, just locked in place by advanced math.
That is exactly the claim.
Well, let's keep moving. We've mapped the broad outline. I really want to zero in on the absolute center point of this entire map, the obelisk.
Ah, the Washington Monument.
Yeah. If the city is a body, what function is that massive pillar serving?
Well, this is where the theory transitions from just a static map into an active daily ritual. The Washington Monument is interpreted here as the shaft of Baal. To understand why that matters, we have to travel back from ancient Egypt to ancient Babylon, specifically to the foundational legend of a figure named Nimrod.
He's often described in these esoteric traditions as like the first architect, the archetypal rebel against God, and essentially the original AntiChrist.
That's his exact mythological profile. And the core legend is that Nimrod was murdered and his body was dismembered into 13 pieces and scattered across the land.
I remember this myth. His wife had to go find the pieces, right?
Yes, his wife, Semiramis, she scoured the earth and managed to recover every single piece except for one, his phallus. So to complete his body and resurrect him, she used magic to fashion a 14th piece, which was a golden replica.
Right, and through some occult ritual with this replica, she magically conceived a Christ child, which they viewed as the reincarnation of Nimrod himself.
You've got it. So if the National Mall is a giant body, the obelisk is, well, that 14th piece.
You know, I've always just thought of the Washington Monument as this massive, city-sized sundial, like a giant needle casting a shadow to show the time of day.
Most people do, but if we apply Vega's theory, that shadow isn't telling time at all.
It's doing something else entirely.
Right. It is allegedly acting out a mechanical fertility ritual every single day. So let's look at the geometry again. The monument doesn't just sit on a flat lawn.
What's the shape around it?
If you draw a massive circle around the White House to the north and an equal circle around the Jefferson Memorial to the south, those two circles intersect.
Okay, I'm visualizing the overlap.
That overlapping space right in the middle creates a pointed oval shape known as a vesica Pisces.
Which is the universal geometric symbol for a womb.
And the Washington Monument is planted dead center inside that womb geometry. As the sun moves from east to west, the massive shadow cast by the obelisk stretches and moves across the lawn. Over the course of the day, this movement creates a distinct optical illusion.
An illusion of an erection, basically.
Yes. And as the sun sets, the shadow elongates eastward, visually penetrating what the theory refers to as the Mall Pyramid.
The Mall Pyramid.
Yeah.
Is that the converging triangular street layout leading up to the Capitol?
That is exactly it. It is a solar-powered machine designed to continuously symbolically inseminate the heart of the Capitol.
So it's basically incubating a Luciferian seed every single day.
According to the source material, yes. It transforms the entire landscape from a simple park into a living, breathing, occult engine.
But here is the part of the theory that really hooked me. It's the hard numbers.
The numerology is very specific.
Because you can argue all day about whether a shadow looks like a ritual or just a normal shadow. But you really can't argue with a tape measure.
No, you cannot. And mathematics is really the fundamental language of the occult. Numbers, unlike words, don't change their meaning over millennia.
So tell us about the height of the Washington Monument.
It was built to be exactly 555 feet tall.
Which, you know, to anyone just walking by, that just sounds like a nice, aesthetically pleasing round number.
It definitely does. But in Masonic numerology, 555 is the numerical calling card for resurrection.
Oh, tying directly back to that ancient Babylonian goal of resurrecting Nimrod.
The builders deliberately stopped construction at that exact height. And if you take that 555 feet and convert it into inches, the underlying geometry reveals its true face.
Okay, do the math for us.
555 feet is exactly 6,660 inches.
666, the biblical number of the beast?
Hiding in plain sight, engineered to the exact inch. The premise is that these numbers are a brazen signature from the builders.
Just left there for anyone with the esoteric knowledge to read it.
But as we continue through the theory, we realize this machine isn't just confined to the Earth.
To work, an occult blueprint apparently needs a celestial anchor. It has to reach up to the stars. So how does this city grid connect to the cosmos?
It operates on the core Hermetic axiom of as above, so below. The idea that earthly architecture must act as a mirror to the heavens to draw down celestial power.
So we are talking about star alignments now.
Yes. The theory introduces the concept of celestial ley lines, arguing that the layout of DC aligns flawlessly with the Orion constellation, specifically the three prominent stars of Orion's belt.
Okay, let me put the pieces together here. If we need 3 points on the ground, are we looking at the White House, the monument, and the Jefferson Memorial?
You've got it perfectly. Those three physical structures form a slightly angled line that directly corresponds to the stars Mintaka, Alnilam, and Alnitak in Orion's belt.
And what makes this really compelling is that Washington, D.C. isn't the only place we see this specific star map stamped onto the Earth, is it?
This is where the theory scales up to a global level. That exact same Orion alignment is famously found in the layout of the Great Pyramids of Giza.
Oh, right. The three pyramids match the belt.
And it is also found in the placement of the three ancient structures on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem.
Which structures are those?
The White Temple, the Dome of the Rock, and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The underlying argument here is that a cross-millennial, unseen network of builders has been stamping this exact celestial signature on global power centers throughout history. The premise is that they are constructing a physical language to communicate with initiates, signaling that a great work is underway.
So they leave markers that deliberately break the illusion of innocent symmetry. So what does this massive machine actually do? I mean, we've decoded the historical blueprint, we understand the shadow rituals and the celestial ley lines connecting DC to Orion, Giza, and Jerusalem.
We have the whole mechanism mapped out.
But occult rituals are always driving towards some endgame. What is this hidden language actually counting down to in the modern day? What is the great work?
The ultimate goal is physical preparation. The central argument is that the entire city of Washington, D.C., the womb, the obelisk, the energy grid, acts as a massive symbolic incubator.
Incubating what exactly?
It has allegedly been ticking away for centuries, preparing the geopolitical and spiritual climate for the physical return of Nimrod 2.0.
The resurrected architect, the biblical AntiChrist.
And the blueprint even has a built-in clock. Remember the Mall Pyramid we discussed earlier?
Yeah, that triangular space leading up to the Capitol.
Right. If you look closely at its landscaping and layout, it is truncated into 12 distinct steps or echelons. And the theory posits that this is a literal countdown timepiece. It's symbolically tracking the generations, the presidential administrations, and the historical epochs leading up to the final debut of this figure.
Which brings us to the real climax of the theory and a very modern architectural proposal, the Trump Arch of Triumph.
This is where ancient history crashes violently into the present day. The theory places immense apocalyptic significance on this proposed archway.
Because it's supposedly the final piece.
That's the argument, that this arch is the final missing piece of the Luciferian chessboard on the National Mall, the capstone of the entire blueprint.
But why an arch? What does an arch specifically do in this grand design?
Well, to understand the arch, we have to look back at history again. The text compares it directly to the Arch of Titus in Rome.
The Arch of Titus was built in the 1st century. I know it was a massive monument celebrating the Roman Empire's destruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem.
It commemorated the scattering of the Jewish people and the complete desecration of the holy site.
So how does a new arch in D.C. connect to that?
According to the theory, this new arch, which is slated to coincide with America's 250th anniversary in 2026, flips that historical script entirely. It is designed to commemorate a fallen angel, Lucifer, and it serves as a massive geographic starting gun. A starting gun for the completion of the Third Temple in Jerusalem. The timeline embedded in the DC architecture is supposedly intimately linked to the physical geography of the Middle East.
So the two cities are connected in this prophecy.
Yes. The prophecy laid out here claims that once this final arch is erected, the great work in America is finished. The incubator opens.
And then the Antichrist steps out.
The Antichrist will debut on the world stage, travel to Jerusalem, enter the Holy of Holies in a newly constructed Third Temple, sit upon the Ark of the Covenant, and declare himself God. That is the final apocalyptic stroke of this entire architectural blueprint. And I do want to anchor our discussion one final time by reminding you that today we have merely walked through the encrypted layers claimed by Luis B. Vega's intricate theory, focusing entirely on how the geometry, the ancient history, and the apocalyptic theology all interlog within the author's own framework. The mechanics of the theory are what make it such a fascinating puzzle.
We've spent this entire time looking backward, examining how ancient and modern builders might have used urban architecture as a physical, encoded language to broadcast their deepest, most secretive beliefs into the future.